shining in the midst of the darkness shining. Jesus, light of the world, shine upon us. Set us free by the truth you now bring us. Shine on me. Shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine. Fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze. Set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow. Flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Let the Bible Speak. My name is Alex Meredith. I'm a preaching minister for the Marquette Church of Christ, and I will be hosting today's episode as we walk through this lesson on idolatry, something that I know often feels very disconnected from us when we read about idolatry in Scripture, but we're going to sort of bring it to life today and talk about what that looks like and how to avoid the pitfalls of it. So we're continuing this sermon series called talking about the nature of discipleship. Who has been called by the gospel? How have people been called, and what are they called to? So we're really at the core talking about discipleship and what that looks like and what it looks like to live a life as a Christian today in today's world. So again, like I mentioned before, our topic today is idolatry. And I know I get a lot of questions about idolatry, people wondering, is this really something that we deal with today? Is this something that's really relevant to us? And absolutely it is. So today we're going to be looking at a passage that allows us to do some of that reflection. So we're going to be in Acts chapter 19. Acts chapter 19, and we're going to begin reading in a second in verse 23. A little bit of background here as we get started, though. Paul, at the time of this happening, this is concerning the man Paul, who is involved in much of the New Testament writings. Luke is right now writing Acts about Paul, right? So this is concerning Paul and his missionary journey. He is right now in the city of Ephesus, where he has been for a little over 2 years. So he spent quite a bit of time there. This is his third missionary journey. He had been to Ephesus before. So now he's spending quite a bit of time there. And as he is conducting his ministry throughout that world, in Asia Minor, going over to Macedonia, he's seen increasing hostility as he's traveled, right? Whether it be from Jewish authorities, from the Roman government itself, or just from the secular world, people rebelling against this idea of Christianity and everything that implies, right? So he's seeing this increased hostility, and that's what we're entering into as we read from Acts 19. So let's start reading in verse 23, and we're going to read through verse 21 as we look at this riot in Ephesus. About that time, there arose no little disturbance concerning the way. By the way, the way is often a way to refer to Christianity early on, so that's what it's referring to. About that time, there arose no little disturbance concerning the way, for a man named Demetrius, a silversmith, who made silver shrines of Artemis, brought no little business to the craftsmen. These he gathered together with the workmen in similar trades, and said, Men, you know that from this business we have our wealth. And you see and hear that not only in Ephesus, but in almost all of Asia, this Paul has persuaded and turned away a great many people, saying that gods made with hands are not gods. And there is danger not only that this trade of ours may come into disrepute, but also that the temple of the great goddess Artemis may be counted as nothing, and that she may even be deposed from her magnificence, she whom all Asia and the world worship. When they heard this, they were enraged and were crying out, Great is Artemis of the Ephesians! So the city was filled with the confusion, and they rushed together into the theater, dragging with them Gaius and Aristarchus, Macedonians who were Paul's companions in travel. But when Paul wished to go in among the crowd, the disciples would not let him. And even some of the Osiarchs, who were friends of his, sent to him and were urging him not to venture into the theater. Now some cried one thing, some another, and for the assembly was in confusion, and most of them did not know why they had come together. Some of the crowd prompted Alexander, whom the Jews had put forward, and Alexander, motioning with his hand, wanted to make a defense to the crowd. But when they recognized that he was a Jew, for about 2 hours they all cried out with one voice, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians!" And when the town clerk had quieted the crowd, he said, "Men of Ephesus, who is there who does not know that the city of the Ephesians is temple keeper of the great Artemis and of the sacred stone that fell from the sky? Seeing then that these things cannot be denied, you ought to be quiet and do nothing rash. For you have brought these men here who are neither sacrilegious nor blasphemers of our goddess. If therefore Demetrius and the craftsmen with him have a complaint against anyone, the courts are open, and there are proconsuls. Let them bring charges against one another. But if you seek anything further, it shall be settled in the regular assembly. For we really are in danger of being charged with rioting today, since there is no cause that we can give to justify this commotion." And when he had said these things, he dismissed the assembly. Something about this passage that's always been interesting to me is how the whole thing is never really resolved. You have this big outcry, this big disruption, this riot, the crowds rushing into the theater, crying out, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians," and there's no, Mount Carmel moment where God brings fire from heaven and shows everybody that this is the one true God. There's no Mount Carmel moment, right? It just sort of dissipates, really, because one of the Roman officials was warning them that they could get in trouble with the Roman government, right? So it just goes away. There's no solid resolution. There's no Paul proved them wrong, It's just a display, really, of the prevalence of idolatry and how impassioned they were. That they, felt so strongly about this that they made this big ruckus because of what Paul had done, right? Because of what Christianity had done to that area and to the people in that area. So, again, the big talking point here, obviously, is idolatry. We talked about this some before with Paul in Athens. It was a place full of idolatry, literal idols. Well, something similar is happening here. You have the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. It's this monumental, massive, apparently quite beautifully architectured building. And Ephesus was known to be the temple keeper of Artemis, right? Their whole identity centers around this point of idolatry. Okay, so when we think about idolatry as Christians today, it can feel quite disconnected because we don't have the Temple of Artemis. We don't have statues on the street corners dedicated to this god or goddess, right? But I really think that idolatry just takes a different shape today, right? Idolatry, in a sense, is attributing and giving to something else what really belongs to God. And we can do that with all sorts of things, right? So I really think that idolatry just takes a different shape. And what we're going to do today, in an effort to reflect on this text, we're going to do something quite different, something I don't think has ever been done on this show before. We're going to read a series of letters. They are fictitious letters that are intended to allow us to reflect on this passage, the nature of the passage, and what that might look like today. It's hard to explain without just getting into it, so I'm just going to get into it. We're going to start with the first letter. The first letter is quite an ancient one. This was written in ancient Ephesus in the year 54 AD. So listen to this. Demetrius, the silversmith of Ephesus, the city of Artemis, to my dear father in Philippi. I know it has been some time since my last correspondence, but I felt it important to share some recent events with you. You know that I thoroughly enjoy my craft. I remember the long days I spent with you making small iron tools out of the ore we gathered from the local mine. Since then, the apprentice has become the master. I have become one of the most well-respected craftsmen in the whole of Asia. I have found it especially profitable to spend my time crafting silver shrines in the form of the great goddess Artemis. Every respectable citizen has one for their home. Religious pilgrims also frequent the city and make for a reliable income, not only for myself but also for the craftsmen who assist me. Surely you've heard of Artemis, yes? Even Macedonians have heard the story of the great goddess who defended her city from the Persian invaders. Ephesus maintains a temple dedicated to her. This is why Ephesus is called the temple keeper of the great Artemis. The temple is enormous and is over 600 years old. When I moved here, I noticed how much attention the temple received, so I decided to make the shrines and sell them around the temple. A very profitable decision. Why shouldn't I profit from Artemis's blessings? As I mentioned, business was very good until recently. Last year, we had only half the profit. A man by the name of Paul arrived in town 2 years ago. I never thought much of him, nor did I see him much. I knew that he had been shouting some nonsense about some man named Jesus in the hall of Tyrannus, but knew nothing more of the man. I heard a rumor recently, however, that the decline in business was due to this man claiming that gods made with hands are not gods. He claims there is only one true God, the Jewish God, Yahweh. This goes against everything Ephesus stands for. Every year, the city sends its young women to do a year's service at the temple, and in return, Artemis protects and blesses the city. The city owes its allegiance and loyalty to Artemis and the whole plethora of gods who watch over us. Of course, I've never seen Artemis, but the results are there. Paul's actions are nothing short of treason. I shared the news of this traitor with my men last week, and they were furious. We marched into the city in protest, shouting, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians," together as we went. Soon, the small group of craftsmen turned into a crowd, and we ended up at the local theater, all of us shouting together, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians." The synagogue leader tried to stop us, but nobody could hear him over the crowd. The crowd even found 2 of Paul's companions and beat them. The whole matter went on for 2 hours, a moment of great unity and pride for Ephesus. I pray that none of these Christians, as I believe they're called, caused you any trouble. Have you seen any in Philippi? I think I heard that Paul passed through there once. I simply wish to go about my business undisturbed. We must do what we can to stop this nonsense about false gods. I intend to write to you again soon. Greet the rest of the household for me. Great is Artemis. So there you have the first letter. Here's the second letter. This one's rather fresh, written January of 2020 in the city of Marquette. Dad, I miss you, and I hope all is well. I'm writing to you because the power has been out for 3 days now, and I have no way to charge my phone. It's a real-life horror story. I'm not sure how much longer the power will be off, but I wanted you to know that I'm okay. The snow and ice really piled up on Thursday and knocked out several power lines in the city. In any case, I thought I'd take the opportunity to share something with you. Maybe you have some helpful advice. As you know, since graduating from NMU with a degree in business management last year, I've been struggling to find any work. What you may not know is that it all changed 2 months ago. I started working with a local band, and they've hired me on as their full-time music manager. I know, not exactly the path you expected, but it's been great. The band is called No Limits. The music wasn't exactly to my taste at first, but it's grown on me. Their songs are all about, how do I put it, entertainment. You know, girls and glamour, crazy parties, wild clubs, and that's pretty much the life we live. The pay is nothing to scoff at either. I've gotten them gigs almost every weekend, so we're normally playing late on Saturday night. Sometimes we're out as late as 4 a.m., so I haven't been able to attend Sunday worship at the church in a while, but there's really no way around it. Apparently, No Limits used to be quite different. They were a country folk band, if you can believe it. When they made the switch, they lost quite a few loyal fans, something about crude language and topics they didn't want to hear about. What prudes. I even ran into one of these former fans. She used to come to every gig the band played, but now she talks about how the new music taints her mind and encourages her to do things against God's will. She's even been telling her friends not to come see us. Maybe that explains the lower turnout lately. I'm all for religious freedom, but these people need to stay out of other people's business and worry about themselves. If things keep going this direction, I'll be out of a job quick. And if I lose this job, I'll lose everything, my income, my purpose. Well, I hope things go well with you back in Nashville. Right back soon. I'm not sure when the power will be back on. Your son, Ben. P.S. I know we had a small fight last time we spoke. I just wanted you to know, no hard feelings. LOL, no spell check when you write with pen. What is this ancient technology? The third letter, we go back to ancient times once again. Ancient Ephesus in 54 AD, a follow-up from Demetrius' first letter. Demetrius, the silversmith, to my father in Philippi. I received your response 2 weeks ago. I was glad to hear from you. I was glad to hear about Lydia and the jailer. I know that must seem a surprising confession, but much has changed here in Ephesus since I last wrote to you. Following the riot I mentioned before, I learned that there was a group of these Christians meeting next to my home, even after all the opposition they faced. They meet together most days, but the largest gathering is on the first of the week. At first, the gathering was small, but it has since grown tremendously. In fact, the news of Jesus, the man crucified in Jerusalem, you may remember, spread so quickly around the city that I had no choice but to close the shrine business. There was too much opposition and nothing but a rapidly waning interest. Artemis is nowhere to be seen. I feel I should be angry, but I am not. I went to speak with this Christ group yesterday with the intent to berate them for their arrogance and foolishness, but I was met with nothing but kindness. They patiently listened to my struggle, then offered me some of their food and a place to stay. I reluctantly accepted their offer and listened to their testimony about Jesus, who they called a Christ. It's ironic, isn't it? Artemis was nowhere to be seen, but Jesus was everywhere. Artemis' temple is all but abandoned, but the followers of Jesus increase every day. So much for gods made with hands. Turns out that these Christians have been helping people all over the city, the poor, the widows, the orphans, really anyone who needs help. Frankly, the city is doing better than it ever has before. It makes me wonder if Artemis was really at work after all, before Paul came to town. Maybe she really is just a cluster of rocks. Personally, though I've lost much of my wealth, I find myself more content than I was at the peak of my prosperity. The joy of community and, dare I say it, eternity means so much more to me than any amount of wealth I had amassed. I know this must come as a surprise to you. I plan to speak with Aristarchus tomorrow concerning the matter of baptism. Greet all the others in Philippi on my behalf. I intend to write again soon. Grace and peace. And finally, the last letter. Ben's second letter to his father. Marquette, February of 2020. Dad, the power is back up at this point, but I figured I'd keep up the writing since you wrote me back. I was surprised to read such a disappointed response. I know we grew up going to church, but I didn't really think you cared that much. As it turns out, a lot has changed since I last wrote to you. No Limits experienced a steady decline in its fan base. There were so few people coming out to the shows that places stopped inviting them. At one point, there was even a local church set up outside one of the venues here, protesting our show and handing out Bibles. After that debacle, I couldn't get the band a gig anywhere. Unsurprisingly, the band let me go. They had no choice, and I feel relieved. I expected to be angry or confused, but I'm not. And honestly, the short-lived life was exhausting, and I'm happy to be done with it. I started going back to the church again the last few Sundays. I'd forgotten how kind they've been to me. I am a bit concerned about my health, though. They eat together every chance they get, and somebody won't stop bringing cake. It's impolite to refuse, right? I'm glad to be around people who are so kind and optimistic about the future. Not at all what I imagined just a few months ago. I suspect the music work had a bigger impact on me than I'd realized. I've got a meeting with the preacher tomorrow morning. I'd really like to find a more permanent place here if possible, and I think he can help me with that. I hope all goes well for you. I'll probably just call next time. I'll see you this summer. Sent with love, Ben. P.S. Have you heard about this coronavirus thing? Sounds scary. Well, it'll probably be old news in a few weeks. I'm reminded of something that C. Wright, I can't remember his first name right now actually, C. Wright once said that false gods will never fail to fail. They'll always let you down. I think about the Temple of Artemis back in ancient Ephesus. It was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, this beautiful, this unbelievable building. It's in ruins today. If you see pictures of the Temple of Artemis today, there's just one little pillar that sticks up out of the ground part way, and even the top of the pillar has been destroyed. So that's all that's left. It's suspected that it was destroyed by the Goths in the 3rd century A.D., and it was gone, right? The Temple of Artemis is gone. But what about God's house, the church, in which God dwells, right? You look at 1 Corinthians 6:19, your body is a temple, houses the presence of God. 1 Corinthians 12 and 13, the same idea that the church is the body of Christ. This is a place where God dwells now. So you look at the Temple of Artemis, where is it now? It's all but destroyed. God's house, it is present and strong. I've heard a lot of people over the years talk about their anxiety about the church. Inevitably they see the way that young people are. They see these newer generations coming up, and really much like they probably were when they were that age, there were some problems, right? There's a general, I guess you might say, lack of reverence. There are problems that every generation faces, even when it comes to faith, right? But they look at the way that the church is going and they think, well, I don't know if the church is going to be around in a few years. I don't know about this. I don't know if this is going to work out. Remember Acts chapter 5. Remember the words of Gamaliel, this Pharisee who was talking with Peter and James as they were arrested for speaking the gospel. And Gamaliel said something I think really quite wise. He said, look, if this is just something that, this is just man's creation, if this is just something they're making up, if this is just nonsense that they're trying to put together, if the church is nothing more than a human institution, it is going to fail. Right? You think about the greatest man-made institutions throughout the history of the world. Think about the Roman Empire, one of the longest lasting institutions in the history of the world. Around 1,000 years of existence. But ultimately it failed. But here you have the church, supported and created and sustained by God. And it is alive and well to this day, right? So you have this contrast of things that, people can do versus what God can do. And Gamaliel said, if God is behind it, there's nothing we can do to stop it. I think we can have great confidence in the future of the church simply because God is behind it and God created it. This idea that idolatry is outdated, well, the truth is the world is full of people who are looking for purpose. They are looking for fulfillment. They're looking for peace. And there are a lot of false promises out there, right? If you just had enough money, you could be happy, you could be satisfied. If you just have enough fun, if you seek pleasure and all the good fun stuff, then you'll find fulfillment in that. You'll find peace in that. If you succeed at work and if you work hard enough, you'll finally get to a place where you're satisfied. Turns out that's not true. If you have the right relationship, if you have the right politics, if you have the right politician that gets in there in office, then everything will be fine. Well, it turns out those are all empty promises, right? None of them could deliver what they promise. And when you have, I know these letters that we read through, they're fictitious, and it's sort of an imaginative reflection on what happens today and what may have happened back then. But you have Demetrius and Ben, these people who were trying to find fulfillment in something else, whether that's wealth or pleasure, but it didn't work out. And that's really reflective of people's experience today. If you put all your trust in these worldly things, it's not going to work out for you. And you're going to inevitably be disappointed. Because at the end of the day, nobody can do what God can do, and nobody can be who God is. I want to read to you a few passages. We don't have much time left, but let's see if I can get to a couple of them. One of them is in Isaiah 44, starting in verse 7. We'll read through verse 11. Who is like me? Let him proclaim it. Let him declare and set it before me, since I appointed an ancient people. Let them declare what is to come and what is to happen. Fear not, nor be afraid. Have I not told you from of old and declared it? And you are my witnesses. Is there a God besides me? There is no rock. I know not any. All who fashion idols are nothing, and the things they delight in do not profit. Their witnesses neither see nor know, that they may be put to shame. Who fashions a god or casts an idol that is profitable for nothing? Behold, all his companions shall be put to shame, and the craftsmen are only human. Let them all assemble, let them stand forth. They shall be terrified, they shall be put to shame together. And that's probably all I have time for to read. Other passages, if you want to read on your own time, Psalm 115, 2 through 13, Psalm 89, 5 through 8, Jeremiah 10, 3 through 16. These are all passages that talk about the frivolousness and the uselessness of putting your trust in other things that are not God, compared to the tremendous value, the incomparable value of putting your trust in Christ. You know, we have this tendency to just go along with the confusion. That's what happened in Acts 19, right? People didn't even know why they were gathering in the local theater. That's how I feel like we are in the world sometimes. We just kind of go along with the confusion. We latch on to whatever's popular, whatever other people are trusting in and finding fulfillment in. Which is why you've got to make a really intentional step. If you really want and expect spiritual progress, you've got to take a very intentional step towards God. A very intentional step in your faith to move towards God and to find the only place that you can really find that fulfillment and peace that everything else promises, but that none of them can deliver. Right? So, again, we're almost out of time, but I want to encourage you with the little time we have left. Get connected with your local church. Get connected with us. If you don't know how to begin going about that, I'll give you our website info, letthebiblespeak.net. If you go there, we've got all kinds of resources on there for you to begin studying. You can request a workbook, a Bible, anything you want. Just contact us. Let us know that you need help. Send us a message on there. Thank you for joining us today. May God bless you, and may God give you peace.
Glory blaze, Spirit blaze, set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow, flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send